On me fait plaisir d'accueillir Jean-Claude MARTIN de l'université de l'unité NRS de l'université de Paris. Il va prononcer son séminaire en anglais. Mais vous pouvez, je présume, Jean-Claude, que tu es d'accord qu'il pose des questions en français parfois.
Oui, tout à fait, bien sûr, oui.
Et puis, il vous invite à poser des questions à tout moment. Ça va, il n'y aura pas de terminaison obligatoire. Ça va terminer à Jean-Claude, professeur à l'Université de Paris, comme j'ai dit, dans le domaine de l'interaction homme-machine. Il dirige une équipe de recherche à cognition, conception et usage au laboratoire interdisciplinaire des sciences du numérique. Ces recherches portent sur l'adaptation et la combinaison des théories psychologiques. Est-ce que tu es psychologue ou informaticien, Jean-Claude?
Non, moi, je suis informaticien.
Ah, d'accord. Donc, des théories psychologiques de la part des informaticiens avec des approches de conception centrées sur l'utilisateur afin de concevoir des interactions homme-machine pour la formation aux compétences sociales et à la motivation à l'activité physique. I'll say that in English as well. Jean-Claude is professor at University of Paris-Saclay in France in human-computer interaction. He's the head of the research team Cognition, Perception, and Use at the Interdisciplinary Laboratory of Information Technologies. He conducts research on adapting and combining psychological theories with user-centered design approaches to design human-computer interactions for social skills, training, and motivation for physical activity. Son exposé s'intitule Interaction sociale motivationnelle en psychologie et en interaction humain-machine. Motivational social interaction in psychology and human-computer interaction. You have all, si vous êtes là, vous avez déjà lu le résumé. Je ne vais pas lire le résumé. C'est Jean-Claude qui va faire l'expansion des résumés. And I now pass the control over to Jean-Claude in Paris. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation to your seminar, and thank you also for the very nice introduction. I'm very happy to be presenting today. Today I'm going to present some work we do on two main concepts, which are motivation and social interactions. So we'll see the links between these two concepts. First, I will start by describing the team that I lead, which is called Cognition, Perception, and Use. So we are 8 permanent researchers. Myself, I'm from computer science. We are 3 in computer science and 5 in psychology ergonomics, and so around 10 PhD students and postdoc. And we have a double goal in our team. We inspire from psychological theories for designing human-computer interactions. And we symmetrically, we use human-computer interactions to better understand human. So that's why we involve both psychologists and computer scientists in the group. History of research, like this very old curriculum, which is interesting to go back from time to time. So just to show that if you don't know this field, it's really pluridisciplinary. You can see here that there are 4 main areas. The one above, which is use and context, related, for example, to work or to application areas. Of course, one which is the computer itself, with some techniques and including graphics, some input and output devices. One very important box, obviously, which is the human, with more psychological processing and also more communication-related processes. Ergonomics, which is at the borderline between a human and computer. And last, the development process with software engineering practices. So of course, it has changed a lot with new techniques, new paradigms, multiple users, multiple computers, mobile interaction, and so on. But there is a large research community, both in for human-computer interaction at large, like the CAI conference, but also some very specific, more specific conferences related to virtual agents or to multimodal interactions in which we publish. And also, of course, some conferences which are not related to ACM, like affective computing about emotion and computing. So, as I said, I'm going to present some work about two lines of research, how to motivate to interact, and symmetrically, how to interact to motivate. There are multiple cases and examples where people are not really motivated to interact with each other. It's not really the case between humans, but also with some mobile applications. You can see that some mobile apps have not been designed properly, maybe, so people are not motivated to interact with these apps. Symmetrically, it would be interesting to interact to motivate. So there are some, for example, a well-known therapeutic paradigm, which is called motivational interviewing, in which a counselor is interacting with a client so as to increase his motivation to change behaviors, for example, for stopping or decreasing alcohol consumptions. And there are multiple related apps on the market, of course, to change unhealthy behaviors, for example, to do more sports or to change your diet. The research question that I'm going to raise today is, what are the relations between these two concepts, motivation and social interactions? How to motivate people to interact, either to interact with other humans or with systems, and also how to design interactions so as to motivate people, for example, to change unhealthy behaviors. So I will first describe some introductory material to understand motivation and understand social interaction. And then I will describe one of our projects related to designing interfaces to motivate autistic children to interact. And then in point 3, I will describe how we have designed a mobile app to so that people can interact to be motivated to change behavior and to manage their back pain, and then some, of course, conclusory remarks. So first, understanding motivation and interaction. Regarding motivation, for example, there are multiple theories of motivation in which some of my colleagues in my groups are specialized. Motivation can be defined like how to move oneself or others to act. So it's usually referring to intention. People make distinctions between some theories which are related to content theories, so that what is motivating people, and other theories are more related to the process, so that how to motivate people. One of the mainstream theories of motivation is called self-determination theory by DIC and Ryan, and it includes 6 mini theories, including one mini theory of on basic psychological needs, which states that people are motivated if they feel autonomous. For example, they are using their will to interact with an app or at the time they prefer, etc. They feel competent, and they feel belonging to a group of people, for example, related to other human peers, related to affiliation. So, of course, this third dimension is related to social interaction and especially interesting for us. The self-determination theory, SDT, also proposes a continuum of motivation qualities, going from amotivation, so this the left-hand side column here, in which people are not motivated at all, up to the right-hand column, which is called intrinsic motivation. So, for example, people are doing something for their own pleasure. And between the two of them, there are 4 qualities of motivation which are related to extrinsic motivation. For example, people are doing something because some people told, like a doctor, for example, told them to do so, but they are not motivated by themselves yet. Motivation is related to human-computer interaction. For example, in this article from CAI 2020, the authors have mentioned, have computed the number of papers referring to self-determination theory in HI and game, and you can see it's increasing over time. And in another CHI paper in 2018, the authors proposed a questionnaire, which is based on this motivation qualities from the SDT that I just proposed, described, like from a motivation to intrinsic motivation. And the idea is to rate how users feel motivated to interact with the system. So, for example, you can see at the very end, I use system X because it is enjoyable. Compared to for motivation, I use X, but I question why I continue to use it. So it's good to have such a validated questionnaire to measure motivation to interact with systems. Regarding social interaction, it has multiple definitions. And for example, related to social skills, it has been defined as the skills we use to communicate and interact with each other. So it's one of the numerous definitions about social skills from this book. And we, with some colleagues, we have been collecting a corpus of collaborative problem-solving interactions in a dyad. So CPS is a paradigm for studying collaboration. It has been used for a long time. So in this case, the two people interact over Zoom to solve a task like a survival task. And we have collected a corpus, and we use this corpus to design interactions with a simulated virtual character. We also use this corpus to measure social skills. So, for example, here on the left-hand side, we list two scales that we designed to measure social performance. So SPRS, which is inspired by another scale in a collaborative problem-solving community, in which we measure the gaze behavior, the voice quality behavior, so lens, discomfort, and conversation. So these two, and another questionnaire, which is called Social Skills of Collaboration Scale, which is more related to negotiation and collaboration. So the first one is more related to general multimodal communication skills, and the second one below is more related to negotiation and collaboration in terms of action, interaction, perseverance, adaptive activity, etc. So we use these two scales to rate our corpus. And we were also interested in studying how much individual differences impact social performance. And there is one trait which is quite known for impacting emotions and feelings, which is called alexithymia. It is composed of three dimensions related to the difficulty to identify feelings. And another one is difficulties to describe feelings, which are two different things. They are related to both describing our own feelings, but also to describe the feelings of others. And so we computed correlations between alexithymia and the social performance measured with our scales. And you can find here, I'm not going to detail the conditions, but the correlations are negative across several items of alexithymia, showing that alexithymia decreases social performance. So it's interesting to see that some individual differences impact social interaction. We have also been using virtual characters. So this is a famous handbook which was published recently to design on the design of virtual characters. They are now called socially interactive agents. So the idea is to design virtual characters which are endowed with social skills capabilities. And we use that, for example, to train people for job interviews. So on the left-hand side, there is a user, and on the right-hand side, it's our virtual character. It was a collaboration with MIT. And the idea is that we measured how people improved their job interviews between before and after the training. And we found out that there were, in fact, some differences between male and female participants. Female participants being able to rely on the training to improve their performances. We also designed training systems for social skills for medical care or medical students. And we designed virtual characters, which are called virtual patients. So, for example, here it's a virtual patient simulating pathologies with Alzheimer's disease. It's a close collaboration with an hospital in Paris. And you can see on the left-hand side a video of a caregiver who is interacting with a virtual patient to motivate her to take her medication. And we designed a computational model below that to simulate how much the pathology impact the appraisal of emotion and the expressivity of the emotion. So that was the first part. It was a general introductory presentation on motivation on one side and on social interaction on the other side. I don't know if there is any question yet.
Yes, there are. Okay, go, speak up.
Oui.
Tu peux poser en français ou en anglais. Vas-y.
Est-ce qu'il m'entend? Vous m'entendez?
Oui, très bien, oui.
J'ai deux questions. La première, c'est lors des mesures de collaboration de problèmes du coup en groupe. Est-ce que vous avez pris en compte l'état émotionnel des personnes? Parce que je pense que selon l'état émotionnel des personnes, ça peut avoir une influence sur leur collaboration en groupe. Et aussi, est-ce que vous avez remarqué si certaines personnes se sentaient plus ou moins impliquées, investies dans la discussion selon comment la parole était répartie? Par exemple, s'il y a un leader qui s'est, entre guillemets, désigné dans le groupe, est-ce que certaines personnes, par rapport à ça, gardaient plus la parole ou s'exprimaient plus?
Alors, merci beaucoup pour cette question, c'est intéressant. Alors, on a mesuré l'état anxiété avant, on ne l'a pas mesuré après pour voir par exemple si ça les rendait anxieux ou pas. Et pour l'instant, en fait, on n'a pas trouvé d'impact de l'état anxiété sur les performances sociales. On a trouvé un impact, comme j'ai présenté, du trait alexithymie, mais en termes d'anxiété, on n'a pas trouvé, on n'a pas mesuré d'autres émotions. C'est peut-être dû au fait que on a beaucoup recruté d'étudiants. L'alexithymie, c'est quand même un trait qui est quand même très continu. Et peut-être qu'on n'a pas eu de population assez anxieuse, enfin, ou présentant des problèmes émotionnels durant les interactions. Mais c'est vrai que notre focus là, était plus sur les compétences sociales plutôt que sur les émotions. Hein. Donc, c'est pour ça qu'on n'a pas demandé aux gens comment ils se sentaient, par exemple, à l'issue de l'entraînement, enfin, de l'interaction. Et regardant Oui.
On a d'autres questions. Donc, d'abord, est-ce que... Non, vas-y.
Ah oui, donc il y avait le tour de parole et l'application. On a mesuré la longueur des tours de parole et on a utilisé, par exemple...
Excuse, Jean-Claude. Il y avait une autre question derrière. Est-ce que tu veux
Il n'a pas
poser?
répondu à ma deuxième question.
Pardon?
Il avait posé deux questions, je pense qu'il est en train de répondre à la deuxième.
Oui.
Ah, excuse, vas-y.
Oui, donc on a mesuré les tours de parole avec le logiciel que j'ai présenté qui s'appelle Nova. Et on a utilisé ces mesures pour concevoir un agent virtuel qui était compétent versus un agent virtuel qui était non compétent en termes d'animation et de comportement. Hein. Là, j'avoue que je me souviens plus bien de la mesure, de l'impact des mesures de tours de parole sur la perception de la compétence sociale. En tout cas, on n'a pas mesuré des aspects liés au leadership, par exemple, ou voir comment s'il y avait un unbalance, si c'était non équilibré entre les deux partenaires. On a plutôt regardé séparément comment chaque personne était perçue en termes de compétences sociales et on a fait le lien avec les annotations qui concernaient les comportements de cette personne. Mais ça pourrait être intéressant, effectivement, de travailler sur l'aspect leadership et tour de parole.
D'accord, merci.
Il y avait d'autres questions? Vas-y.
J'aimerais savoir si vous êtes intéressé aussi aux personnes neurodivergentes, pour qui justement les interactions sociales sont parfois plus compliquées.
Excuse-moi, je n'ai pas bien compris le début de la question.
Si vous êtes intéressé aux personnes neurodivergentes.
Pas dans cet expé-là. Là, dans l'expé suivant, je vais vous montrer ce qu'on a fait avec des enfants autistes. Mais là, c'est vrai qu'on a recruté quand même des tout venants, tout en mesurant, comme vous le voyez là, on a des gens qui sont quand même aussi assez fortes en alexithymie. Donc voilà, c'est quand même pas, on n'a pas focalisé sur les neurodivergences, mais ça pourrait être intéressant en termes d'études, évidemment, quoi, comme protocole, également pour voir l'impact sur les compétences sociales, par exemple.
D'accord, maintenant, vous passez encore à l'anglais?
Sorry, I forgot. D'accord. You want me to translate or?
No, you can continue now.
Okay. Okay, so I will continue the presentation. So now I'm going to present one project we did on how to motivate to interact. And the idea is we have been working with Jacqueline Adel, who is famous for her research on imitation in autism. And it is well known that people with autism present social skills deficits. So that's why it's interesting for us to study and to train these social skills. It's also one known that they are not motivated to interact with others. So there is even a theory called social motivation theory, which would impact also this deficit in social skills. And one idea we had with Jacqueline was to design a system which would raise the motivation of autistic users in what the people are doing. One limitation of the existing virtual trainings that they are mostly done with children who are speaking, whereas, for example, children who are at the Jacqueline Adel Teddy Bear Care Center are not speaking autistic children. So motor interaction might be interesting here as a basis for socialization. So that's why we went into this idea of training collaborative action. So collaborative actions and joint actions are things we do, for example, when you are helping someone to move to another place, and you raise a piece of furniture together with someone. And it's both kind of motor dialogue and also social dialogue, because you have to look at the expressions of the others to see if it's not too difficult, and to agree on how to move that to go across a gate, for example. There are multiple systems, but they are not suitable for children at the care center. For example, there are some robotic systems which are enabling joint action to do joint action with a robot, but are quite expensive or dangerous for children. So we applied a user-centered design approach, and we came with this idea of having both virtual and tangible device that you can see here. So here on our knees, you can see a children with autism interacting with the system. Standing is a therapist. So and you can see that there is a big box here, and also there is a screen with an overhead projector. The other projector is projecting a virtual character here. You can see that we haven't put a facial expression because we wanted the autistic children to focus on the movement, including the posture of virtual character. And as you can see also on the picture in the middle, you have some tangible objects which are continued and prolonged by a virtual counterpart. It makes like a big object. And this idea is that you are going to the child is going to interact with virtual character to move a piece of object from one place to another. I can show you, for example, some video. I'm going to switch to the video in DLC software. You see it? Yes, I think you can see it. In this example, so this is Tom Giro, the postdoc who worked on that, because we are not allowed to show children. You can see it's a bit displaced because the camera is not in front, but if you are in front, you can see that the virtual part of the object is aligned with the tangible part. And in this case, you will see that the user, the child, is helping the character, so he's following the character. In this example, it could be the therapist who would tell the children, for example, to move the blue box onto the red chair, for example. So it was a success, so that hence the lights there. So in this other case, the agent is autonomous. So in the first video, the virtual character was helping the user. So the character was following the user. But in this case, the agent is autonomous, and the child has to follow the agent without knowing where the character wants to move the piece of furniture. So you can see it's a bit delayed, but the delay is not too strong, so it's a success. And this is in the final video, the third video. I know, it's moving it back. So in this case, the virtual character is autonomous, and it's a failure. You can see that the user is not following properly, and so it's a failure. So as you can see, it's the number of objects is limited, but in some cases, you would have to put the blue box on the floor, or you would have to put the red thing onto the purple one, etc. So there are different variations of joint action. I'm going to start again the presentation. And so regarding, these are the videos that I just showed already. And regarding the results, so we did a preliminary study with 12 children with 600 trials collected. We can see that one good point is that 5 children with autistic spectrum disorder achieve the task with the most difficult agent, the autonomous one. So they have to align their own behavior with the virtual character, which is quite difficult for autistic users, and have to partly understand what the virtual character is doing. And it was kept 3 weeks after, which is interesting in terms of generalization and maintenance of the interaction. 5 children did not go beyond familiarization or the helping agent. So the helping agent is quite simple because the user is moving and the virtual character is just following. So for the user, he doesn't have to align his own behavior on the virtual character. And 2 children stopped the training, and a few children didn't want to interact with the system from the start. So we'll see that this problem also, the problem of I'm not willing to interact with the user, is also something that we find in other applications related also to people who are not motivated. In terms of difficulties, you can see that there are, for example, a slide and not grasp the object. So we expected people to slide the object, but some people grasp the objects and move it somewhere and put it back on the wall, so which is they detach it and so it doesn't work properly. The work against graffiti could be difficult because we used magnets, and so when the object was on the floor and they had to raise it, it was a bit difficult to push it from the floor upwards. And they were sometimes distracted by success and failure animation. So this was a project with children. The idea was to motivate people to motivate them to interact or to rise, to get interested in what the other virtual character is doing, where they want to move the object to which place. We have been working also with adults with autism. So these people are working, for example, it can be sheltered places. It's called ESAT in France, where they are not. It's kind of simulation of a workplace, but others are working in a real workplace. And we use a user-centered design approach and workshops to have them explain with our handicapped workers and our educators. And the idea was to identify the situation which were difficult for them in terms of social interaction, but also to motivate them for social interaction. So, for example, to interact with their referent, the people who is in charge of them, or handicapped workers at the workplace, and also to interact with co-workers. So there was also a motivational dimension in this work. So regarding, I'm going to the conclusion.
On a une question.
OK.
Oui, merci. Est-ce qu'on pourrait revenir à deux acétates avant? Finalement, ouais, c'est en fait celle-là. Concernant les enfants qui n'étaient pas motivés d'interagir avec le système, en fait, est-ce qu'après ça, il y avait d'autres procédures qui étaient prises en charge pour justement les motiver ou savoir pourquoi ils n'ont pas voulu interagir avec le système, ou ça aurait été tout simplement à voir à quelle étape ils se rendaient. Est-ce qu'ils se rendaient jusqu'à l'étape où que l'agent était autonome versus ils se rendaient à l'autre phase avant, que c'était juste d'aider l'agent.
Alors, oui, là, alors ceux qui voulaient pas, sorry, yeah, the ones, the children who didn't want to interact with the system, it was cases. I mean, Jacqueline did a lot of work to have them getting used to have this new device at the place when they come during the day. So first, she had them get a glance, get a look at the device, for example, and then they could come in the same room and etc. So she did that very progressively, but I must say that maybe also because of the device itself, because it's quite big, it's like a big piece of furniture, so it could also impress the children. So that could be one reason why they didn't want to interact with it, or maybe it was a new thing, so they didn't want to interact with it, etc. But we did our best, in fact, to have it a bit similar to what they do in day-to-day activities. For example, the tangible part of the object was made of the same stuff, mousse, that was used with object used during interaction between therapists and children, and during face-to-face work and interaction. Yeah, so it's a bit. Of course, we didn't want to force the children to interact with the system. So when they didn't want to, we didn't try to force them, and it's sometimes difficult to get information about why they didn't want to interact with the system.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this part with the autism users was also partly to motivate to interact. And now I'm going to show another project we have on the counterbalance part, which is interacting to motivate. So there is a lot of work in a field called persuasive technologies or motivational technologies. Some are based on the self-determination theory that I presented earlier. For example, the framework designed by Peters and et al. Is called METLUX. The idea is that when you are designing motivational technologies for motivating people to do physical activity, for example, you are going to use mediators related to autonomy, competence, and relatedness, and you are willing to increase the response to these needs in terms which will impact motivation, engagement, and well-being, and at multiple, at three spheres of user experience related to the interface, for example, the mobile phone, the tasks, the fact that people are interacting for a specific task, the behaviors, so running in the street, for example, and users' life in general. One specific point which is interesting for us is the adoption of technology. So it's one first part. Before introducing interfaces and impacting tasks and behaviors and then life in general, and at the end of the spectrum, you have also society, how much you impact society by designing positive technologies. The first point is adoption, and we'll see again that it brings some issues here because it's difficult to have people adopt some technology, for example. And they also propose some questionnaires which are focused on SDT and which are measuring, for example, the autonomy, competence, and affiliation needs. So there are lots of mobile health applications. The good point is that they are usually aiming at reducing costs, for example, by decreasing the required meetings with real doctors. They improve the accessibility and reach of health coaching. The counterbalance that they are not widely downloaded or used. Average quality and effectiveness are rarely empirically assessed, or we don't have much information sometimes on the theories which are behind these mobile applications for health management. And we don't know if they have been evaluated with a randomized control trial, for example. The research suggests that it's important to involve healthcare professionals and patients, and to draw on behavior change theories, and also to design an adaptive interventions, which is personalized to each or to group of users. We have been working with an hospital in Paris with back pain patients. So back pain patients are quite often visiting hospital. They need to be motivated to do exercises, for example. They need to be competent in how to manage their pain and to be persuaded that they have to move, for example. So we have been defining several profiles of back pain patients, and we have been mapping these profiles on a model of behavior change called APA, which is specific to health. You can see that there is a motivational phase in this behavior change model on the left-hand side, and then there is a volitional phase on the right-hand side. These two kinds of phases are quite common in behavior change theory models. The idea that you are going first to be aware of the problem, and then you have to involve strategies to go towards the good behavior. The profile of behaviors that we have defined here, I'm not going to detail that, but they've been made by clustering a community of patients from Paris hospital. I think it's 300 patients, and using questionnaires, we have been being able to classify them into 4 groups. So we have been adapting the interactions and mobile interaction to these profiles. For example, with these people unmotivated and cautious, they are very early in the behavior change process. So we have first started to design to encourage them to do to get some information and knowledge using quizzes, exercises, so that they improve their competence and they know more about what is the back pain. Because it would be too early to suggest them to do some exercises, for example. For other patients, for example, confident patient, we have been proposing a video of exercise, helping them reduce their back pain with different levels of physical activity. And we have been also using motivational messages. So, for example, these messages avoid of the health problem by giving yourself a moment to do your exercise session. Is dedicated to the unmotivated, and it's more on the left-hand side, related to the left-hand side continuum of the qualities of motivation of the self-determination theory. On the other hand, we use some items from related to intrinsic regulation questionnaires to define messages which should motivate confident users, for example. So the design of motivational messages is quite tricky. In fact, you have to rely on to find the proper theory, to find the proper wording, to validate them first to measure if they are perceived as being motivational, to integrate them into the interface, and maybe when they are used during the interaction, they are not perceived and they do not impact motivation anymore, for example, compared to when you present them out of any interaction. So we did a study with 60 participants, and we had 3 hypotheses. I'm going to explain them again later with the results. So we had 2 groups. One group on the upper part here had an interface which was adapted to their profile. The profile were computed with a different questionnaire. A questionnaire related to motivation for physical activity, fear and belief, self-efficacy, and depression. These are the questionnaires which have been used to define the profiles in the community of patients. The other group of patients used the same application, but without the personality features. And our hypothesis was, of course, that adaptations would increase the positive effect of the intervention. So first, regarding the interaction, you can see here that we try to find a balanced set of participants. The first thing you can see here that we get only one unmotivated user. So that's related to the adoption of technology that I mentioned earlier. Even though when we did the questionnaire for the clustering of patient profiles, we were able to get a lot of unmotivated people to answer the questionnaire. But when you ask them to participate in a study with an app and to interact with an app over several weeks, they do not respond to the invitation, and hence you don't have any unmotivated people. So the doctor in the hospital we work with told us from the start that we can forget about these people. They are not enough motivated to interact with such an application. I thought, of course, it's a pity because the people who deserve it, would use it, would benefit from it the most, of course. But anyway, you can see here that the rating of user experience was rather good. I mean, between if you go from -5 to 5, the average was 1.4. So we had overall a good user experience report by the participants. And so our first hypothesis about the user experience interaction, which was expected to be good, is validated. And regarding the impact of adaptation, you can see that for one group of patients, the confident users, in fact, the adapted version was rated better in terms of avoiding negative emotion compared to the group of confident users who had the not adapted version. So it was partially validated only with one profile. Regarding our hypothesis about the engagement to use, so we had the hypothesis that interaction would result in a good engagement because we had designed the application using a focus group and user-centered approach. So it's not really good. In fact, the engagement is not enough. Most people stopped using it after 14 days. And the average duration of use per connection is 13 minutes for a total duration of use of 1 hour 15 minutes. So we expected they will use it much more, in fact. The hypothesis about the hypothesis about adaptation was partially validated again for confident users. You can see here that the time per connection in minutes and seconds was much higher for the adapted confident users compared to the confident users who did not have the adapted version. So the ones with the adapted version interacted much more with our system, which is a good point. So that's the end of my second part, and also I'm going to reach the end of the. I don't know if there is any question about this mobile application for motivating people to change behavior.
It's a question here. I'm going to turn the camera around so that you can see your questioner. Go ahead.
Oui, ma question c'était, est-ce que vous avez une justification de pourquoi les personnes ont arrêté d'utiliser l'application? Est-ce que c'était parce que leur état s'améliorait et qu'en fait, ils avaient suffisamment intégré les conseils de l'application pour pouvoir s'en passer? Est-ce qu'ils vous ont expliqué pourquoi ils ont arrêté d'utiliser?
Alors oui, il y a eu donc un des problèmes. On avait fait un questionnaire. Je peux répondre en français, c'est plus simple. On avait fait un questionnaire à la fin, un débriefing. Le problème avec ces études un peu dans le in the wild, c'est que vous voyez qu'on avait 60 participants et il n'y en a que 31 qui ont répondu au questionnaire final. On n'arrive pas, on peut les relancer, et ils ne reviennent pas, ils ne répondent pas au questionnaire qu'on leur envoie. Ils ne sont pas dans le laboratoire, évidemment, ils sont partout en France. Hein, et donc, on n'a que 31 participants qui ont répondu. Il y a plusieurs possibilités. Il y a certains items en termes d'interaction qui ont noté qu'on a amélioré dans la version 2 qu'on va évaluer. Il y avait une partie notamment liée au contenu qui n'était pas assez nouveau. Donc là, on a rajouté un niveau, par exemple, en termes de vidéos. Il y a des vidéos pour ceux qui ont déjà un bon niveau et qui permettent de faire d'autres exercices. Et il y a des petits aspects, en fait, en termes, par exemple, pouvoir arrêter la vidéo ou ce genre de choses qui ont été améliorées en termes ergonomiques. On a peu d'informations sur le fait qu'ils soient arrivés au changement vraiment de comportement, si vous voulez. C'est une des possibilités, effectivement, c'est ce qu'on voudrait aussi avoir, hein, quelque part, c'est qu'ils soient suffisamment autonomes pour ne plus avoir besoin de l'application. Mais pour l'instant, on n'a pas cette information vraiment. On espère l'avoir dans un essai randomisé contrôlé qui va être lancé très prochainement avec l'hôpital, dans lequel cette fois on aura plusieurs centaines de participants et on va utiliser l'application améliorée grâce aux résultats qu'on a eu pour cette première expé que j'ai décrite.
D'accord, merci.
Fiji. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I will continue. So I'm now going to conclude. I presented two lines of research related to motivate to interact. So it was motivating autistic children to interact with virtual character, but hopefully with other peers in the future. It includes also social skills assessment and training. Of course, if you want to, we want to see how people improve their social skills when they are trained with the system. The second part was related to interact to motivate, and I explained how we designed a tailored motivation interaction, and how we hope that they help motivating patients to improve their behavior. The common features of these two lines of research are the fact that they involve theories from psychology. They involve user-centered and participatory design approaches. So we collect need requirements from end users. We have some input from families, for example, in the case of autistic children. We had some focus group with mixed autistic adults and therapists, educators. We designed different technologies related either to virtual agents or mobile applications. And we use different kinds of experimental studies. With the autistic children, it was more in the lab, kind of lab. It was not the lab, but it was in the care center. It was complicated. It was not really a proper experimental study because you have to adapt each time to the child who is interacting with the system, for example, in terms of difficulty. And for the mobile app, it's more in the wild because the mobile app was distributed to participants from all over France, and we don't have much grasp on what they are doing. So, as I said, one of the problems that is at the right end of the metrics model is the technology adoption and the motivated participant. And even for a user-centered design approach, it's difficult to involve unmotivated people because when they come to focus group, they can even reject the focus group because they are not motivated, or do it because only they are willing to please the experimenters. And one of the recent project is looking at motivation interviewing, because it's a technique that I introduced at the start of the presentation. The idea of this technique is to enhance the motivation through the resolution of ambivalence. So, for example, the client sometimes knows that he has to change his behavior, but on the other side, he's not willing to do so because he's still liking, for example, to eating unhealthy food. We're collecting video of such interaction to better interact and understand the strategies that we could use in motivational technologies. And for example, we use some non-verbal processing techniques. We process the partial expression, both of the counselor and of the client. And we found out with collaboration with Yukiko Nakano in Japan that it improved change talk detection. So we better, thanks to the processing of partial expression, we are better able to detect automatically when the client is speaking about changing to the new unhealthy behavior. In a larger perspective, it opens avenues for research. We are studying group motivation. So group motivation is a phenomenon which has been studied for long now. So it was in the 1920s. A researcher called Keller found out that people were working harder when they were in a group that when they were on their own. So it was related to a physical activity task, and it involved a social comparison. This notion of collective motivation is well used in a classical application about physical activity, like using collective challenges, for example. But also collective motivation is known also in cultural groups and also in different tasks related to creative tasks, for example. So beyond just questioning how interaction impact motivation and how motivation impact interactions, we are willing to study jointly motivation and interaction in a single kind of a line of protocols. we are going towards designing motivational social interactions. You can see that these are included in the same terminology. Designing, applying user-centered and participatory design to understand the requirements in terms of motivation. We are willing to go beyond motivational text messages or other graphical only and visualization gamification by designing motivational tailored interaction techniques. So for example, when the user has to validate or to provide some kind of input, he may be more engaged into the behavior change. Finally, we are looking at also collective interactions in some specific sports and physical activities, collaboration with the sports department. They have some collective exer games, for example, in which people are playing against the wall. It's mostly, it has been studied for elderly users, for example, to motivate them to do physical activity. And they are a group of people facing the wall and in which a game is displayed using an overhead projector. And we are going to study collaboration, both between the participants and also with the system. Of course, we are looking at ethics and privacy matters. For each of our experiments, we have applying to the ethical committee of our university. And it's always interesting to tackle this motivation and the ethical dimensions of motivation when you are designing motivation and persuading technologies. Thank you very much for your hearings, and I'm available for more questions.
Thank you. Maybe you could turn off your slide share and I'll turn this on to the audience here. Est-ce qu'il y a des questions ici, sur place? Est-ce qu'il y a des questions à lointain? For example, Mario Pasalacqua, you are new in this group and this is your specialty. Did anything come to mind about this? Mario? No response. OK.
Moi, j'en aurais une.
Pardon?
Moi, j'aurais une question.
OK, c'est ça. Donc, je vais tourner. Voilà. À toi d'abord et puis ensuite toi.
Moi, j'aurais une question au sujet de votre expérience que vous avez fait avec des agents virtuels pour mesurer le niveau d'interaction et social skills. Est-ce que vous avez mesuré le uncanny valley dans l'interaction que les personnes ont eue avec les personnages? Puis sinon, est-ce que vous pensez que ça peut avoir un impact sur la mesure des habiletés sociales que les personnes pourraient avoir?
Alors, c'est une bonne question. Effectivement, on nous la pose souvent. Dans cette expérimentation, c'était pas notre but. J'ai pas détaillé, mais la résolution collaborative de problèmes, par exemple, une tâche de survie, telle qu'on l'a répliquée avec des agents virtuels, l'idée, c'est plutôt d'étudier un peu l'impact des différences individuelles, comme l'a Timmy, sur leurs compétences sociales et voir si le fait qu'ils interagissent avec un agent virtuel performant socialement versus non performant socialement, ça impactait leurs propres compétences sociales, leur propre performance sociale, c'est des participants. Donc, ce n'était pas notre but. Nous, c'est vrai qu'il y a, à chaque fois, il y a pas mal de variables qui vont être intéressantes à étudier. On n'a pas travaillé directement dessus. On n'a pas eu de rejet, en tout cas, qui ont été formulés par les participants. Souvent, on fait des expés, par exemple, à des fêtes, à des fers, à des fêtes de la science, par exemple, en France. Et nos agents virtuels ne sont pas forcément toujours très bien designés en termes graphiques, également en termes de comportement. Et alors, ça n'empêche pas les enfants, comme il y a pas mal d'écoles qui viennent, d'interagir et d'être super intéressés pour interagir avec ces agents virtuels. Donc, en tout cas, il n'y a pas d'aspect de comportement suffisamment étrange pour les rebuter à interagir avec ces agents virtuels, quoi. Mais c'est vrai qu'après, je comprends les gens qui étudient ça spécifiquement et qui veulent regarder, notamment pour des applications dans lesquelles on veut que les gens interagissent régulièrement avec les agents virtuels, pour être sûr qu'il n'y ait pas d'uncanny valley, qu'il n'y ait pas le fait qu'ils perçoivent ça comme un peu bizarre. On fait souvent remplir des questionnaires qui permettent d'évaluer comment les gens perçoivent l'agent virtuel. C'est un questionnaire qui s'appelle le Godspeed, Voilà, donc ça permet d'impacter s'ils trouvent que le personnage virtuel était réaliste, si voilà, si j'avais l'impression d'interagir avec quelqu'un, enfin, voilà, ce genre de questions, quoi. Mais c'est vrai que c'est pas notre objectif de recherche en soi, l'étude de l'Uncanny Valley.
Oui, vas-y.
Oui, par rapport aux perspectives futures, est-ce que vous avez fait la mention, en fait, là, d'une possibilité là, d'observer là, des, lors d'un jeu, en fait, est-ce que vous avez pensé à peut-être intégrer déjà, il y a plein de réseaux de gamers qui se réunissent déjà puis qui sont très motivés, qui vont passer des heures à jouer. Donc, intégrer un jeu déjà connu sur un serveur et puis d'observer en fait les participants pour justement avoir la collaboration qu'ils vont avoir ensemble et puis leur motivation.
Oui, alors en fait, ce qu'on voulait, on a fait pas mal, on a fait des études aussi avec des agents virtuels et une partie interface graphique. Donc d'un côté, il y a l'agent virtuel qui exprime des signes non verbaux en termes d'expression faciale, de posture, etc. Et de l'autre, par exemple, on a un plateau de jeu sur lequel on voit l'évolution du jeu. Et le problème, c'est que qu'on a eu avec ce type d'interface globale dans lequel il y a à la fois un agent virtuel et une partie graphique, c'est que les gens, comme ils sont souvent impliqués dans le jeu, bien, ils regardent que le plateau de jeu. Et finalement, ils ne prêtent pas attention à la communication non verbale exprimée par le personnage virtuel. Et nous, c'est ce qui nous intéresse justement, c'est de voir un peu, souvent quand on a des personnages virtuels, c'est de voir un peu l'impact des expressions raciales et aussi comment les gens utilisent la communication multimodale en termes d'interaction sociale. Comment est-ce que ça impacte l'interaction sociale? Donc, c'est pour ça que dans ces jeux-là, ces jeux collaboratifs qu'on a utilisés, la tâche de survie, on a fait exprès de ne pas avoir d'interface graphique. On veut que les gens interagissent comme en face à face, hein, pour éviter, enfin, pour qu'ils se focalisent justement sur l'interaction sociale face à face, qui pourra leur être utile s'ils doivent ensuite interagir en face à face avec d'autres personnes. Et pour pas donner trop de place à la partie interface graphique voilà, qui introduirait pas un biais, mais qui ferait qu'ils ne seront pas assez focalisés sur l'interaction avec d'autres personnes.
Mario a répondu qu'il était en voie de passage en auto. C'est pour ça qu'il ne pouvait pas intervenir. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions? Sinon, j'ai une petite question et puis ensuite, je vais te remercier. L'effet de facilitation par l'activité en groupe, ça s'appelle la facilitation sociale. Je voulais savoir s'il y avait une interaction entre les catégories de participants que tu avais et leur,
Et leur quoi?
l'effet de la facilitation sociale selon la sorte de problème qu'ils ont avec l'interaction et la motivation. Je prédirais que les autistes ne seraient pas très facilités par davantage d'être autour de... Est-ce que je me trompe?
Alors sûrement, je suis pas spécialiste de l'autisme, mais c'est vrai qu'on interagit pas mal avec Jacqueline Adel. En tout cas, là déjà, on commençait par faire simple en termes d'interaction, puisque c'était 1-1. Et la même chose pour l'application motivationnelle pour la back pain, pour la gestion de la back pain. Et effectivement, donc c'est plus récemment qu'on regarde euh, les aspects. Alors, je ne sais pas, je connais pas le terme facilitation sociale, je vois les aspects groupe gain, ce genre de choses. Mais là, on est en train de regarder aussi tout ce qui est social comparison. Donc, ça nous intéresse de développer ça, notamment ça a été beaucoup étudié évidemment en psychologie sociale, mais aussi dans le cadre du sport, avec tout ce qui est sport d'équipe. Et donc, on, la motivation, par exemple, collective, enfin, il y a pas mal d'études sur la motivation individuelle, mais pas tant que ça, en fait, dans tout ce qui est collaboration numérique, environnement de collaboration numérique. Comment est-ce qu'on qualifie, comment est-ce qu'on mesure la motivation collective d'un groupe d'étudiants qui travaillent ensemble, par exemple? Euh, il y a eu des choses sur une des différences interindividuelles qui s'appelle l'orientation régulatrice, qui consiste à dire que les gens sont plutôt orientés promotion, ils vont aller vers les gains ou ils vont être plutôt prévention, c'est-à-dire qu'ils vont éviter les pertes. Et donc ça, c'est un trait, c'est comme un trait de personnalité, mais ça a été aussi proposé pour mesurer l'orientation collective d'un groupe. Donc, est-ce que des gens en tant que groupe, ils sont plutôt promotion, ils vont aller tous majoritairement vers des gains ou ils vont plutôt éviter des pertes? Donc, il y a des études comme ça qui comparent pour une même mesure des mesures individuelles et des mesures collectives. Et donc, c'est dans ce sens-là qu'on va essayer d'aller pour étudier ces phénomènes de groupe avec des dispositifs de collaboration numérique notamment, quoi.
Alors, il y a une autre question de la salle. Je vais mettre la caméra ici.
Mais c'est pas une question que une tentative de réponse. Parce que, tu sais, souvent, les personnes ne veulent pas interagir en groupe parce qu'ils ne savent pas comment le groupe fonctionne.
Je n'entends pas bien, excuse-moi. Je n'entends pas bien.
Mais les personnes autistes n'interagissent pas nécessairement en groupe parce qu'ils ne savent pas comment interagir dans le groupe. Ils ne comprennent pas les relations qui se passent. Mais quand il y a d'autres personnes qui produisent un comportement, ils comprennent alors comment le faire. Et comme ça, ils sont encouragés à participer. Parce qu'ils peuvent comprendre et intellectualiser le processus. Parce que souvent, les personnes neurodéveloppantes qui ne savent pas comment interagir. Et quand ils ont un exemple de comment interagir, là, ils peuvent. C'est pour ça que des agents comme ça, qui démontrent vraiment comment faire. Puis il n'y a pas la peur d'avoir tort aussi quand on est avec des agents. Tu sais, parce que c'est pas une vraie personne, fait qu'il y a pas le. Tu sais, on ne va pas se faire chicaner, on ne va pas se faire. Fait qu'il y a ça qui permet, tu sais, qui facilite beaucoup. Puis c'est pour ça que c'est très intéressant de travailler avec des agents puis les enfants autistes, parce que justement, il n'y a pas la répression d'avoir fait un mauvais comportement.
Oui, oui, tout à fait, oui. Aussi, on peut même aussi, alors il y a ça, il y a même aussi le contrôle, c'est qu'on peut sélectionner les modalités qui vont être affichées pour que la communication soit plus simple. On n'avait pas affiché d'expression faciale. Il y a le fait que c'est systémique, les agents vont reproduire exactement le même comportement parce qu'ils sont contrôlés par ordinateur. Donc effectivement, il y a plein de dimensions qui peuvent être intéressantes pour contrôler la communication, pour et réduire sa complexité. D'une manière générale, effectivement, il y a à la fois des gens qui vont dire que les gens se comportent de la même manière avec des systèmes qu'avec des humains. C'est un peu tout ce qui est dans la ligne Media Equation. Et puis, il y a d'autres études qui montrent que les gens ne se comportent pas de la même manière. Par exemple, avec un système dans des applications touristiques, les gens vont insulter l'agent et voir comment il se comporte alors qu'ils ne le feraient pas forcément avec des vraies personnes. Donc, je pense qu'effectivement, c'est intéressant de comparer et ce qu'on fait un petit peu avec nos corpus, puisqu'on a des corpus humain-humain et des corpus humain-agent. Donc, c'est toujours intéressant d'avoir les deux, et notamment dans le cadre de l'autisme, d'avoir quelque chose dont on peut contrôler la complexité d'interaction, quoi.
Bien. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions? Sinon, je vais dire un grand merci à notre invité qui est venu si loin par ce temps pour sa conférence. Et j'espère que quand il y aura des thèmes qui t'intéressent, tu vas nous joindre aussi de lointain.
Super. Ben, merci beaucoup, hein. Merci beaucoup pour vos questions
Il y a
et pour
une question
l'invitation encore.
Ah, il y avait encore, excusez,
Ah,
il y a
d'accord.
une question. Désolé. Oui. Est-ce que, est-ce que tu vois, lève la main un peu pour, est-ce que tu vois la main qui est levée?
Non, ah oui, excuse-moi, je fais c'est la petite fenêtre là.
Vous m'entendez?
Oui, parle très fort.
Bonjour. En fait, ma question, c'est est-ce que vous avez remarqué une différence des compétences sociales des individus lorsqu'ils sont seuls et lorsqu'ils sont en groupe? Je vous pose la question par rapport à la psychologie des foules de Gustave Le Bon. Est-ce que ça a eu un impact dans votre étude?
Euh, alors oui, effectivement, j'ai vu la question dans la liste des questions que vous m'avez envoyées avant la présentation. On n'a pas vraiment, euh, si vous voulez, on n'a pas étudié les groupes jusqu'à maintenant. Là, on va commencer à le faire justement avec des collaborations avec le département de sport. Et les compétences sociales, le fait qu'ils soient en groupe et que ça augmente ou ça change la compétence sociale, ça nécessite de mesurer un peu, par exemple, il y a des notions de compétences sociales collectives ou de voir, il faudrait qu'ils puissent faire la tâche seul et qu'ensuite puissent la faire à plusieurs. Et ça serait qu'on l'a pas inclus en protocole. Mais ça pourrait être effectivement une des possibilités. Ce qu'il y a, c'est que nos tâches sont vraiment liées à la collaboration, donc elles nécessitent une interaction avec, avec le système. Donc, même avec l'agent virtuel, finalement, ils interagissent avec quelqu'un. Donc, ça reste quand même une interaction dyadique et donc une tâche collective. Ce qu'on pourrait faire, c'est des paradigmes dans lesquels il y a plusieurs personnes qui résolvent le problème et qui interagissent avec l'agent virtuel, par exemple. Euh, il y a des phénomènes un peu de. Enfin, voilà. En motivation, par exemple, il y a des entretiens motivationnels qui sont appliqués à des groupes. Donc, il y a aussi l'aspect combinaison, interaction sociale et motivation qui apparaît dans ces groupes, quoi. Mais là, c'est vrai on n'a pas étudié l'impact du groupe sur les compétences sociales. C'est intéressant.
Merci. Est-ce que j'ai omis des mains levées? D'accord. Alors maintenant, je répète ce que j'ai dit avant. Merci d'être venu et au revoir.
Merci beaucoup, hein, merci beaucoup. Bien à vous, bonne journée. Au revoir.